Why am I unable to eat like a normal person? Today we're going to talk about food sensitivities. I'm Dr. Carrie Lam, and this is Dr. Michael Lam, my father, authority on adrenal fatigue. So, a lot of people we hear with adrenal fatigue actually have food sensitivities. They're unable to eat normally. Why is that? Like, can you first tell us the difference between a food sensitivity and a food allergy?
Yeah, this is such an important distinction because food allergy is a medical situation where it is mediated by immunoglobulin E. And you hear people talk about, okay, they eat some peanuts and they cannot breathe and then they can actually die. So these are food allergies. Now, what we are talking about in terms of food sensitivity is pervasive among the general population, especially so in people who have adrenal issues, is a sense of a subtle discomfort and just intolerance to certain types of food, but not to the degree that a person is not able to function.
Yeah. What is the cause of food sensitivities?
There are many chemicals in the body that's responsible for this phenomenon. The most common is a chemical called histamine, which is both a neurotransmitter as well as an immunomodulator, and it's just all over our body.
And what does histamine do in our body?
Well, histamine is, generally speaking, a fundamental chemical that has stimulatory properties. So you have to think about that. So what does it do? That means it basically produces alertness in the brain. It causes vasodilation in the peripheral arteries. In the gut, it also has its effect. So basically, if you have a lot of histamine in the body, your tendency is for the body to be somewhat irritable. Okay.
Some other signs of having too much histamine would be like migrating discomfort in your joints, just feeling a little anxious, not feeling well, and having this discomfort all throughout too, right?
Yeah.
And so there are over-the-counter drugs called antihistamines. How do they work?
These drugs are designed to basically sit on the histamine receptor sites and block the action of histamine. So it's like a Band-Aid approach. It's not really a reduction of histamine, but just solving the problems on a temporary basis. And that's why they don't last a long time, and they oftentimes have different side effects.
Right, so like antihistamines usually work on allergies, sometimes asthma, itching, and things like that. So having too much histamine can also manifest as itching, having allergies, asthma, and things like that too.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised how many of these subtle symptoms people have, but nobody can really understand because it can be psoriasis, it could be sometimes the scalp can be itchy, sometimes could be uneasiness, it's not really dizzy. So these are very subtle signs. So unless you pay attention and really focus on the effect of histamine and what it really do, oftentimes most people don't pay attention to them, and doctors are not aware.
So where do most people get their histamine from? How do we get a decrease in the histamine on our body?
Well, the best way to reduce histamine load is obviously to reduce histamine production. So this starts with first different food that we take, because a lot of food have a histamine load. You can tell us some of the food that is a problem.
So like high histamine foods are usually the ones that are fermented or highly processed. So fermented cheeses, aged cheeses like Gouda cheese, highly processed meats like sausages, salami, and in addition, even certain vegetables have more histamine than other ones, like tomatoes, spinach, eggplant. They release a little more histamine than others, and even some berries convert to benzoate, and that increases the histamine levels in your body.
Yeah, but this is not universal. These are just a general list. We have a full list in our library that we give to our clients of a histamine food type to kind of avoid, but it's almost impossible to do 100% antihistamine diet. So we use it as a guide, and we refine it to match the person's sensitivity and dominance. So we reduce the histamine load, but not necessarily reduce it to 100%, which is really not feasible, you see.
So they kind of do like an elimination. They see which foods that they're really sensitive
Well,
to.
in a guided way, because there are signals that the body gives you, you see what I'm saying? So you have to focus on those. That way you have a much more effective way of dealing with this.
So what can a person with this food sensitivities, histamine overload, do?
Well, aside from reducing the amount of external histamine that you put in by food, it is obviously very important that once the histamine is released, you want to neutralize it as much as possible. And there are natural compounds such as quercetin or bromelain, as well as food that have natural antihistaminic properties. You can let us know some of them.
Right, mangosteens, the queen of fruit, actually also has compounds to help with the histamine release. Holy basil has also been shown to help. It's not the regular like Thai basil or regular basil you get. Holy basil can be a little stimulating, so it's very important that you make sure you find a practitioner that understands how to use these. Also other ones like butterbur, echinacea, bromelain, like you talked about, fish oil and vitamin C are other nutritional cocktails that you would be able to use together to help with your histamine symptoms.
Yeah, one of the most important part in terms of the overall histamine modulation is to focus on the liver. So things like glutathione as well as milk thistle should also be part of the regimen. However, in people with adrenal fatigue, this is not as simple as it looks, because the more advanced the body's in the slow down mode with adrenal weakness, the tendency is that the body's already very irritable and is very sensitive. So even if you use these in what is considered good compounds, they can have paradoxical reactions. So one has to be very, very careful. Number two is that these compounds, even for a normal person, they don't work if you supplement, let's say, with quercetin, bromelain. There are formulas that has them, but it comes down to the dosage, because you're using a natural compound to kind of neutralize the histamine load in the body. So the dosage, frequency, intensity is very important. If you don't do it properly, you're not going to get the proper effect. But on the other hand, if you do it right, the results can be quite amazing.
Right. So today we talked about the food sensitivities, histamine, and how it's affecting you. I hope that you enjoyed this video and you'll be able to understand how to get rid or know how to deal with your histamine issues from now on.
Yeah. Well, histamine is such a tremendous nuisance, I would say. In severe form, it can be incapacitating. If you know that you have certain sensitivity through your own experimentation or your own sense, well, maybe wheat, maybe corn, you can preemptively prepare your body with natural antihistamine, or be more aware of the histamine food that you may be exposed. So if you go to the restaurant, order food that are low in histamine. If it's unavoidable, you can pre-take antihistamine natural compounds to help you to alleviate the undesirable side effects. So there are many things you can do, and we deal a lot with the people with this type of problem, because people with adrenal fatigue have a tendency to be so sensitive, so weak, and their exposure to even the smallest amount of histamine can give them exaggerated response.
So hopefully you have a good day.